is there pain in business? Hell yeah, there is. There's a lot of pain to business. Losing a spouse, a lot of pain. You're never going to find any happiness in wealth. Because you know what it is, Stephen? It's a mirage. You get to a certain point and you look and you, through the oasis, through the desert, you see the little palm tree with the little lake. And by the time you get there, and that's how Satan works, it's like, oh, Brig, you're almost there. You're almost there. What is it? One more deal, 5 more franchises. We don't run away from the changes that God wants to make. And that's true with business. And it's true with something as devastating as my loss.
What happens when business success still leaves you wanting more? Brig Sorber helped grow 2 Men and a Truck into an international franchise and discovered that faith, not another deal, had to lead. Welcome to the 11 Talents Podcast.
All right, Brig Sorber, thank you for being on the 11 Talents Podcast.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
And thank you for hosting us. We're going to get into a little bit of the story here. I want to first start off with your success with 2 Men and a Truck. And the first question I want to ask is it more difficult to build a company that is successful like you did with 2 Men and a Truck, or being the CEO and keeping yourself and keeping your spirituality and everything that you are as the CEO of a big company like that?
Well, first of all, Stephen, thanks for having me. And also, I've never seen you without a suit and tie, and you're in a flannel shirt. And I was wondering if you had a flannel tie, but you look good.
This might be my last day on the job after Tom sees this, but yeah, no.
No, I do appreciate the question. And I think a lot of your listeners would probably agree with me that when you are starting a business, you have a tiger by the tail. And so every day is a challenge. Every day is exciting. That's why we do it. Mm-hmm. And so to me, it wasn't hard because it was something that you had to do. And being in the service industry, not only you're watching over your customers, but you're taking a look at your customers as well, making sure that they're happy. As you're growing, you're kind of moving. And so you get into this rhythm. My faith played a big part of 2 Men and a Truck when I took over as president and CEO. It was right during the recession.
2008, right?
Yeah. And it was a very difficult time. It was just our business grew so fast and so quick that it brought a lot of challenges. When the business started to slow down, it was like there was just a lot less moving going on. And when there's a lot less moving going on, you can start seeing some of the problems in your business. Mm-hmm. And so that was one of the issues that we had. So was that difficult? It was, but it was also a challenge. And we also overcame that. As my faith grew, the business grew with it. And some humility came with that. So by the time that we had, the business was up and going, we were hitting on all cylinders. I was thanking God for that business every day. Because when I did take over during the recession, I had just seriously gave my life over to Christ in a real way. Mm. And when I took over the business, I asked God, can you do with this business what you did with me? What if this is your moving business, Lord? Help me. Mm-hmm. And when you ask for that help, he's going to give it, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be easy.
Yeah.
So,
well, it sounds like, that's true. Truly relying on God's will and just letting it go to God. But you didn't, did you grow up in a family of entrepreneurs or business owners? What gave you that business acumen and that entrepreneurial spirit to start your own business?
I would say so. My parents had, white collar jobs, but they wanted more out of life. And so they had income property. And so they would buy these little tiny houses, fix them up, rent them. People would systematically destroy them, leave, and then they would go back in, fix them back up again. But by doing that, it did inch our family, kind of up the food chain, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And so I do think that actually was baked in to all 3 of us kids, that entrepreneurial spirit.
Yeah. So you grew up in Lansing, though, and you didn't have much faith in your family life, right?
No.
Tell me a little bit about your background and upbringing there.
Well, my parents were very hard workers, but we didn't have a lot of faith. We did not, we weren't atheists. My parents were good people. They were hardworking. I'd say more agnostic. We didn't go to church. And so we just didn't have that layer. And looking back on it, I think God showed our family a lot of grace.
Mm-hmm.
And I really found my faith when I met my wife.
Was it Fran that was that come to Jesus moment for you where you got serious, or was there something else that happened in life that struck you?
Well, I think, and just to let everybody know out there, I talked to my wife and I can share this. I started dating my wife. I loved her character. I loved her grit. She was number 12 out of 14 kids. She was the only one to go to a 4-year college. She did on her own. Yeah.
You said she was a Youper too, right?
She was a Youper from Ironwood on the west end of the UP.
People outside of Michigan don't know what a Youper is, but that's somebody from the Upper Peninsula, right?
Above the bridge, yeah.
Above the bridge.
And so she was very gritty. She worked 2 or 3 jobs to put herself through school. She took her education way more serious than I did. When we started dating, my grades got better.
Yeah. This was in college?
This was in college, yeah.
At where?
At Northern Michigan University up in Marquette. And I fell in love with that grittiness. We started dating. I got Fran pregnant. And this is where I found out how gritty she was, because when she came to my house to tell me that she was pregnant, she said, "You do not have to marry me, but I am having this baby."
Mm-hmm.
And back then, Stephen, if she would have asked for a ride to the abortion clinic, I would have gave her one. That's kind of where I was. But I fell in love with her more because it was like, man, is she gritty. And so, I said, let's get married. We would have got married anyway. I had to kind of work on that one a bit. But she was basically, I thought, I'm going to take care of this family. Little did I know she's going to take care of 2 kids, me and the baby she was going to have. But that was 40 years ago. And was kind of my culmination into the Catholic Church as I began to, I took the RCA classes. I became Catholic. And then my faith wasn't that strong, but I was going. It was more towards when I took over as president and CEO of 2 Men in a Truck back in the recession, was kind of when I really leaned on that faith.
Well, I mean, it's nothing like kids that will really make you serious in life. When you have that first one, it's the playtime's over. It's time to get serious. You're, especially as the breadwinner, but it was in college though that this idea came about, right? In terms of starting this moving company.
Actually started before that. I had a 66 Ford pickup truck that we had purchased from my uncle for $200. And my brother and I just started moving, and friends of ours, if we couldn't work, would start moving basically junk to the garbage dump. And then from there, we started moving, small used appliances or used furniture, things like that. My mom at that time, being the entrepreneur that she was, she had a little store in downtown Lansing, and she would go to garage sales, estate sales, and she'd buy things, shine them all up and sell them in that store. Well, she had a 12-foot step van. And she said, I don't use it that much. If you boys want to use a step van, you can. And so we started using that. And, but we were moving people. We didn't have any straps. We didn't have any moving pads. We eventually, I think it was my mom's idea, why don't you go to the Salvation Army and buy used blankets? I mean, that's how we started. And it's just crazy to think that we started with that 66 Ford pickup truck. And by the time that we sold the business, we had over 3,200 trucks. And if you were to line up our trucks bumper to bumper, you'd have an unending line of over 25 miles long of trucks.
Wow.
And it's funny because
that's a lot of equipment that can go bad.
There's a lot of things that can happen with that. But it's funny because, you hear about how Jesus took the 7 loaves and 2 fish and fed 50,000 people. And people would be like, or the 10,000. And the people would go like, well, God, that's just a fable. That's not real. It's like, well, look at us. We had 2 idiots in a 66 Ford pickup truck that grew it to that size. I always look at that as that's a God thing. It really, really is. I graduated with a geography degree from Northern Michigan University. I never took a business class.
And what did you want to do with that geography class?
I have no idea. I started out.
I've never heard of somebody that actually majored in that. But
I started out in forestry and it worked into urban planning and land use regulation. And then I was going to some of those meetings when I was a senior, and I went, there's no way I can do this. This just doesn't look like. And then one of the top guys in our whole in that whole department graduated a year ahead of me, and he got a job. He was the first one to get a job in urban planning in Meridian Township in Okemos, where I was from.
Mm-hmm.
And he said he's starting out at $18,000 a year, and I thought, oh my gosh, I could pump gas at Meyer Thrifty Acres and make that.
Yeah.
And that was the entrepreneur in me. And it's like, no, this isn't going to work. And by this time I knew that, Fran and I were going to have a baby as soon as we graduated. And it's just like, no, I got to grab this degree and run.
Yeah. So you built the business with Fran and, raising kids. I mean, tell me a little bit about that. Cause obviously we've got a lot of our members that are entrepreneurs starting the business, or, like myself, might be running a business, but have a lot of young kids. Like, how's that balance work? And how did you find success in being the father present that perhaps you didn't have as much as a kid? And now you've got, 3 successful kids with marriages and grandkids.
Well, I think what really helped is Fran and I, before I worked at the corporate office, Fran and I had our own 2 Men and a Truck franchise in Marquette, Michigan. And I was selling insurance at the time, and she was staying home with we had 2 kids at that time. And my boss of the insurance company said, I don't want to catch you near that business during the week. And so it was really up to Fran. I would hire, fire, and buy equipment. Fran ran everything else. Fran had a bookkeeping background. That's what she went to school for. And Fran was really the matriarch of our family. Was more matriarch driven. Even though President, CEO, Brig Sorber, our family was matriarch driven, not patriarch. And so Fran is very good at the books. And so she really saw the ins and outs of the business. She understood it. And then eventually I left the insurance company and I ran 2 Men and a Truck. And then at that time, Fran went on to teaching full time. But she still did the books and the business while I was working. And so we kind of we melded well together with the business. So as the business started growing, she knew what it would take to do it. And as it got bigger and bigger, people started looking at me more at 2 Men and a Truck and not at Fran, but Fran's footprint is large. Yep, for sure.
So, I mean, you're a YPO, and you know that Legatus was really born out of this YPO concept. But early on, I know Tom really wanted spouses to be a part of Legatus because of just what you just said. I mean, the fact that they are supporting you and oftentimes the rock that we rest upon, so that we can be in the office as well. And I just want to emphasize the importance of that spousal relationship and that position. It's not just a stay-at-home mom. I mean, it is so much more than that.
No, Tom Monahan got it right. And I had an old priest, Father John Worley, kind of a crabby old German guy. And I would, in confession, I would tell him things, and he would say, do you run that past Fran? Do you run business things past Fran? And I thought, where's he going with that? Yeah. And I just looked at him. I said, I run everything past Fran. He goes, you need to, because God will speak through your spouse. And Father John Worley was right. And do I have to go deep into the weeds with Fran? No. I could go 10,000 feet with an issue with Fran, and she would take that and run in a direction. And all I had to do is take that direction and go a little bit deeper. And so kudos for Tom Monahan for making spouses part of that, because you can't really run a successful business truly if you're married. You both have to be in it. I mean, it worked for me. And it's also somebody to pray with too over the business.
I mean, the complementarity. I mean, we could go all day on this one topic, but this was truly a family business for you. I mean, it was you and your brother started out, and then your mom took it over when you all went back to school. Is that right?
She actually, and kudos to my mom, Mary Ellen Sheets. We weren't going to franchise this thing. I mean, for us, it was beer and book money for college. She loved it, and she worked for the state of Michigan. She was there, I think, 22 years. And she just said, when we went back to school, do you mind if I keep this thing going? And we're like, go ahead.
Yeah.
Well, she quit the state. She cashed in all of her qualified money. People were screaming at her. Even her own mother was screaming at her about that. And she said, you know, she didn't pay herself for 2 years. She lived on ramen noodles. And if she was sitting here at the bar talking to you, she'll tell you that's the best time I ever had in my life. And I'd say, Mom, you're crazy. And she went, no, I loved it. And so she actually franchised it, and got it going on 2 nickels. And we wouldn't be here if she didn't do the work that she did. Yeah.
Well, and then your sister got involved too, right?
She did. Melanie came in. Melanie put some processes to it. Melanie was our first franchise in Atlanta, Georgia. You know, she got her teeth kicked in, being that new franchise with not a lot of support. But that's the way God works. He puts us in these positions, we learn. And then when Melanie became president, Melanie knew what was needed for new franchisees. Melanie brought 2 Men Truck up to the next level and did a lot of good things for sure.
So you mentioned the first franchise was in Lansing, and then you and Fran up in Marquette, and then Melanie in Atlanta. I'm not seeing a real pattern here. So I'm curious, who did you look at for like that franchise know-how?
Yeah.
Or like what, or did you create your own model?
Well, it was tough. When we started franchising, it was mostly food services. There wasn't a lot of service franchises out there. I would say the IFA, the International Franchise Association, we would go to their annual meetings. We got very involved with the IFA over the years, and we learned a lot. And we were one of the small babies of the IFA. And by the time we left, we were one of the larger franchises in it. You know, giving seminars to young franchisees coming in. It was pretty cool how one hand washed the other.
Yeah.
But the IFA was very, very good for us. Yeah.
Well, take me back though to that first decision of deciding that you want to franchise it as opposed to just have it all as a corporate companies under you.
Yeah, I think even back then we knew that to make an owner part of the community is important. I mean, we did have some corporate locations out in California. They didn't run as well because a franchisee that lives in that area, you know, they get involved in the schools, they get involved in the church, you know, Kiwanis groups, civil groups like that. And they get more deeper into the market when they live there. And I think they know
the people they live. Yeah.
Yeah.
So 2008, you take over as president and CEO. Your mom was CEO before then, or like how did that transition work?
Well, I was president. My sister was CEO. And then eventually I became both. Melanie had twins. She held the baton for a long time. You know, she was obviously still on the board, still involved. But the day-to-day stuff, it was just easier for me to be president and CEO. And so I took over both of those.
Yeah. So reading your book, Moving On, right? You talk a bit about really reaching success. Like you felt like you were at your mountaintop at that point. Like you had the house, you had the family, everything was in line, but there was still something missing.
Oh, it was raw. It was, well, you have to understand, you know, Fran and I, you know, we got pregnant in college. We had no money. We had no health insurance. People always think, oh, well, you Sorbers always had money. We didn't. And so, I mean, we had to use public assistance to have our daughter born. That's where we started. And so for me, and I always felt like I was in a prison, and it was a financial prison. And I just felt in my heart that if I could become wealthy, I would have freedom. And I honestly, looking back on it, God allowed it. He's like, you know what? If that's what he wants, let's give him everything that he wants. See where he goes. Because he knows me. I had low self-esteem. I would have just kept slamming the rock until I died. And he went, no, we're going to give him everything he wants. And the business grew and it grew. And pretty soon, yeah, I bought a house back in Okemos where I grew up in a really nice neighborhood. I had the in-ground pool. I went and bought a Audi A4. I just thought a German car was really good, you know, and I thought that successful businessmen drink scotch. So I went out and bought a bottle of Johnny Walker Black. I got a cigar, and I'll never forget this day. Fran was off with the kids. I got done mowing the lawn, cleaning the pool, and I thought it's time to have that first scotch on the rocks. and that cigar and
relish in the success.
And just, I was watching my pool sparkle and, and I'm going to tell you right now, Stephen, the next morning, I felt absolutely hollow. Like I've never felt this before. And I couldn't figure it out. And it was just like a funk. And I remember just going into work and it was just one of those gray Michigan days. And
it's a typical day.
And it was just, and it continued. And I told Fran about it and she's like, you haven't worked out since we've been here. I went, you know what, that's what it is. And so I went downstairs and got my weights out and I went to bench and I had no strength. I just ended up crying and just saying, God, what happened? You've given me everything I've ever wanted. I've got everything I want. Now I feel like dying. And this kept going for like a month. I went to go see a doctor. I went, that's what it is. I finally get success and now I got cancer or something, you know what I mean? And he just said, you're actually in really good shape. A guy your age probably has depression. He simply wrote me a prescription for depression and depression's real. Don't get me wrong. I'm not poo-pooing it. But I just knew that's not what I had. And it was like, I got to get to the bottom of it. And I went to work the next day and I turned on the news like I do on the internet just to take a look at it before I start working. And there was an ad for the Left Behind series of books, Tim LaHaye, what would it be like if God came back in our time? And I went, well, I'd go to heaven. I mean, I throw money in the dish. I go to mass every Sunday.
Check all the boxes, right? Yeah.
Surely. Yeah. I checked, not all of them, but most of them,
yeah.
So I ordered the first book and I was absolutely hooked on those. And then it was like, they kept bringing up the Bible and I thought, is this BS or is this fiction or not? I don't know. So I blew the dust off of a Bible and I started looking up some of the readings that they had in there. And I went, well, not word for word, but it is close. Mm-hmm. Then I thought to myself, Brig, you need to be reading this. So I'd read the Left Behind series at night. And then I'd come in a half hour to work early and start reading the Bible. I started in the book of John and just worked my way through just, 10 minutes. Then I'd pray for 10 minutes. I'd pray for 10 minutes first. Lord, help me understand this because this is very intimidating to me. Then I'd read for 10 minutes and then I'd start my day. That cadence of Bible in the morning, those Left Behind series in the evening, slowly, and I mean slowly, took away just that despair. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, oh my gosh, Brig, you're never going to find any happiness in wealth. Because you know what it is, Stephen? It's a mirage. Mm. You get to a certain point and you look and through the oasis, through the desert, you see the little palm tree with the little lake. And by the time you get there, and that's how Satan works, it's like, oh, Brig, you're almost there. You're almost there. What is it? One more deal, 5 more franchises. I saw that. I saw that game and I wasn't going to play it. Mm-hmm. And so I threw myself. And this all happened before I became president and CEO. So I found God personally. And then when it came to the business, it was like, oh, here we are again. And it's like, God, can you do with this business what you did with my heart? And he's like, hang on. Because when you ask, God will show us, like Psalm 23, surely goodness and mercy will follow me all the days of my life. Mm-hmm. That does not mean that your life is going to get easier. Many times we read that and just go like, well, goodness and mercy is a good thing. That should just happen to me. Goodness and mercy doesn't happen unless you're pressing on God's taken you to a very challenging, uncomfortable place. Goodness and mercy is what's shown in my eyes when you're moving to God. Mm-hmm. No pressure, no diamonds. You know what I mean? And those diamonds are the goodness and mercy God will show us when we have full faith in him.
If you could go back and tell your younger self, give your younger self advice before you bought that Audi, before you got that in-ground pool, what advice would you give to yourself and obviously to other CEOs that you want to avoid that type of, that's not the end all be all goal?
You know what? I'm going to talk really with your Catholic audience here. I'm seeing now, even with my own personal life, I lost my wife. It hasn't even been 6 months, been married 40 years. Mm. She took her own life. And that's a whole nother story altogether. She fought and fought and fought. But as a Catholic, I don't know what I would tell myself. The only thing that I could think of is the fact that really lean in on your faith. And, that's what we were talking about. I was talking about in Psalm 23, when it said, surely goodness and mercy will follow you all the days of your life. That is meant to, in my mind, is when we are leaning on God. I leaned on God for the business.
Yeah.
I leaned on God when I lost my wife 6 months ago. Is the amount of pain? Are you willing to let yourself fall into the arms of Jesus?
Mm-hmm.
I know it sounds pretty heavy,
yeah.
but our faith will really do that, and it will change you. And I didn't know that. I was Catholic when I got that car, when I had the pool and all those things.
Yeah.
But was I leaning on my faith? No. When did I start leaning on it? When I found out that none of that stuff was real and I was spinning out of control. Then I found out the faith is real. And then it helped me to rebuild Two Men in a Truck. Remember, from a guy that doesn't have any business, I never took a business class.
Mm-hmm.
That's God surrounding me with good people, giving me strong discernment to make really good decisions, making, for the most part, we swing and miss now and then.
Yeah.
And then when I did lose my wife, I'm going to lean on God for that too.
Mm-hmm.
And is there pain in business? Hell yeah, there is. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of pain to business. Losing a spouse, a lot of pain. But the Holy Spirit is there to bring you through those things. But you have to lean on those things. Your life does not belong to you. It belongs to God. God knitted you in your mother's womb.
Mm-hmm.
God knew who you were before you were even born. He has a plan for you. He knows how disruptive our world is. He knows how twisted up we get. That's why he gives us so much grace. But if we're not willing to lean into him, then we will never know the value of our faith. But it does not negate the pain, because God is always changing us. He is chiseling us. He is pruning us. And you know what, Stephen? It hurts. It hurts like hell.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of people that run from that. And when you run from that, God will give you free will. Then you're going to live with that. We've learned something at Two Men in a Truck, and I think your listeners would like this. I loved it. When you go out west and there's a storm, a buffalo will run into the storm. And the reason they run into that storm is because they know that they'll get to the other side quicker and they'll get out of it. Is it hard for that buffalo? Yeah, it's really hard. A cow, on the other hand, runs away from the storm. When you run away from the storm, that storm is going to stay over you and follow you and follow you. And so through the business, through the death of my wife, I chose to be the buffalo. I talked to my kids about it. We are going to buffalo through this, not to forget about my wife, but we are going to run through the storm. And my neighbors started calling me Buffalo Brig, and which was kind of funny. But what I realized is I'm not the buffalo. The Holy Spirit's the buffalo. And the Holy Spirit will come up to me when I am just laying on the floor. And I did it when I was with Two Men in a Truck, and maybe some of your listeners can appreciate that. Letting some people go, making hard changes.
Mm-hmm.
Losing my wife left me on the floor. And the Holy Spirit would nudge me like the buffalo. You ready to go?
Yeah.
Want to go? And I would say, I'm ready to go. And I'd climb up on his back and we'd go into the storm. But we dictate that. And I'm not going to run from it. And I've seen businesses, even Catholic businesses, struggle and fail because they're not giving that business to God. I've seen people, now that I've lost my wife, I've been in contact with many people that have lost spouses and children. It is brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen cows and I've seen bison. And the cows break my heart because some of them don't make any moves for years and years. And God is chiseling us constantly. He wants to change us. When my wife died, I prayed to God. God, we prayed over Fran. We prayed for her healing. And the message he got on my heart, because you can feel these things when you talk to God a lot. He said, oh, she's healed, Brig. She's just on the other side of heaven. she's been reassigned. And guess what? You're being reassigned. And the pain that you feel right now is the pain of you being reassigned.
Mm-hmm.
Are you going to let me to continue to chisel and hammer you and grind you into something else? And the answer is yes. And the only way you do that is you buffalo through it. We don't run away from the changes that God wants to make. And that's true with business. And it's true with something as devastating as my loss.
And so that was a lesson that you learned running 2 Men in a Truck, that whole mantra of being a buffalo.
Yes.
I mean, had you not had that experience, had you not had that mantra, I mean, obviously your grieving period would have been a lot different, would look a lot different than it does currently, you know, running into that storm. Oh,
I'll tell you, there are times, I would call them carpet grabbers when my wife died. And that is when you lay on the carpet and you grab the carpet over your head and you groan in sounds that you've never heard before. And I can't remember it is biblical, but that's where the Holy Spirit will pray for you when you can't find the words.
Yeah.
And when you're crying there on the floor, come Holy Spirit, that buffalo comes.
Mm.
And you have to get on it.
Yeah.
And it might come down to, I need to clean out one drawer out of Fran's dresser.
Yeah.
There's some people that don't do anything. It's like, oh no, oh, please get on that buffalo and please allow God to make those changes in you. And it's still sad. Fran passed away almost 6 months ago. I've cried every day, maybe 2.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't cried yet, but this thing isn't over yet. But God has a plan for us. And I want your listeners to understand too, it could be the loss of a spouse. I certainly hope not. Or a child. I certainly hope not. But there's a time that your career is going to end. And are you going to find value in yourself then? Or are you so wrapped up in your career that you wear a cloak of, I was the president and CEO? That doesn't hold water anymore.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, the day that we sold, when the text and the email stopped coming, it's like a plane drops you off, refuels, and takes off. And then you have to have a life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's hard.
Yeah. So, Brig, going back into 2 Men in a Truck, though, you built a company culture. I mean, obviously, you took it over from family. Your sister was running it. How did you build the culture that you did? I mean, it's a service-oriented organization.
Yeah.
You've got franchisees, so you've got other people that you've got to keep happy and satisfy. Tell me a little bit about managing that aspect, but also building the culture while doing that. Well,
the thing is, and again, it's a very godly culture. I mean, we had the 10 Commandments on a poster at our office.
Mm-hmm.
And when we rebuilt the office, I had an employee say, "Are you going to put the poster back up?" And I said, "No." And they said, "That's too bad." And I said, "No, it's because it's going in stone on the outside of the building with lights on it."
Yeah.
And
you can't miss it coming into those front doors.
No, you couldn't. And that's what's nice about owning a privately held business is because Jesus walked those halls. Were they all Christian there? No, we even had some atheists there. But we made it through the recession. And when you're own a moving franchise during the recession, there's some God there to get us through that. We still bonused everybody out at the end of the year. I had people in my office crying. I remember tears landing on their checks in my office, thanking God for that. And our Christmas parties that we would have, everybody would be celebrating, having fun. And again, these are Christians, non-Christians, all together. And I would tell people, the culture here is Jesus walks these halls, and his sunshine shines on everybody, if you're a Christian or not. And so is the needed rain. And so understand that. Yeah. And that's why we would pray over our Christmas parties, our annual meetings, even our annual meetings. My family we would pay it out of our own pocket, but we had a prayer breakfast on Sunday. We'd have speakers come in. It wasn't mandatory, but everybody showed up. And what we have to do is give people the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
but don't just preach it. Don't just put posters up. That means nothing. I mean, how do you show it when you're working with a struggling employee? Do you have an open door policy? My door was, I tell people I have an open door policy. You can, as long as that door is open, come in. If it's shut, don't even knock on it. But it's mostly open all the time. I would send out devotionals. Sold the business 5 years ago. I still send all the devotions to those same employees. Even some of them that left would say, "Hey, can you send it to this email instead?" It's like, absolutely. So there's opportunities when we have a new employee orientation. I would tell them, we are a business driven by Christ. I've got devotions. If you want them, I'll send them. If you don't, I don't keep track. And I've also had people that were walking in, especially IT people that were looking at, should I take this job or 4 other jobs? And they would walk in and see the 10 commandments on the wall. And they'd walk in and go, I think this is where God sent me.
Yeah.
Now on the other side, there could be somebody see the 10 commandments and do a 180 and walk out. I don't know. But I think you got to show it in what you do and how you treat people. And I think that we did that. I think we stayed humble. When employees showed their muster, they would do the boring but important things. They would show up. I would give them more rope to make more decisions. And when there was times that we'd have a news crew that would come in. We want to talk to you about this new marketing thing. It's like, you can talk to my marketing director on that. And they're like, I have never done one of these. Well,
gonna learn
get
today.
together because you get it together as you're about to learn. And to see them grow in those businesses. And then when we were bought out by ServiceMaster, to see how many of our executives became their executives. Because what God does is, as business owners, we're always looking for adventure and excitement. But understand that comes from God. We have an adventurous God, a loving, risk-taking God. And that's what we like about running these businesses. But guess what? You have employees that also need excitement, adventure, risk, reward. Make sure you share that with those employees. That is where they're going to feel God more than seeing a poster or something like that.
Do you think that's where businesses go wrong, as the CEOs clamp down?
Yes.
I want it my way, not the way that you might come up with.
Yeah. Because when I took over as president and CEO in 2008, we had a lot of operational people working at 2 Minute Truck that worked their way up, and they worked their tails off. They did a really wonderful job. But 2 Minute Truck got so big that we needed specific skill sets. And so we would have to bring in people with specific skill sets, and they would take a look at what we were doing and they'd be going like, what? What are you doing? And it's like, my carpet got wore out. I said, well, come in here and tell me what your idea is. And I'll tell you why we're doing something. And if we're not doing it right, explain it to me and we'll change it. They love that because they were building. Well, some of the things they go, well, you do this in your marketing. It's like, oh, that, or this with the culture. It's like, we're not changing that. And this is, but challenge me, because I'm going to challenge you. This is why we do it. Does it make sense to you? That does make sense. Okay. But this thing doesn't. And they'll hit me and I go, that doesn't make sense compared to what you want to do. Makes way better sense. Put that together. Let's work on that.
Yeah.
What are you doing when you do that? You're opening up adventure and excitement to that employee. And all of a sudden they feel empowered. They want to be there.
And you're making mistakes quicker, right? Is it getting through that process?
Right. Absolutely.
That'll lead to success.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of, CEOs of companies get scared to show their faith, gets to be able to exercise their faith openly, like you just talked about. How do you suggest somebody kind of inch their way if they're just, you were in a secular business, you did it. You had people that were, of all different walks of life, faith, race, religion. How did you broach that? And then how do you suggest others broach that with their companies and kind of, because I imagine, and maybe you can share a story about this, you had people that were of no faith that came in your office and say like, hey, I know you're a faith. I need you to pray for this.
Yeah.
Or pray for me.
Yeah, we've actually had a gal that had cancer, breast cancer, a young girl that was not a believer, and she came to my office and we talked, and we had a couple different meetings, and we brought her to faith, and she became a Christian. It wasn't Catholic, but she became Christian, and she died. And Fran and I went to go see her. It was just surreal. Her husband called and said, she's not going to be with us long. She's at home in hospice. We got there and our corporate office was super close. So we had lots of 200 truck employees there. And I went to go see her, walk in there, and they said, Brig, she can't even talk. And I said, well, I didn't even know what I was going to see when I went into the room. And she had blood dripping out of her eyes, out of the corners of her mouth. I've never seen anything like it. And she whispered, and I went, what? And she said, thank you. It was just like, I don't even deserve the right to be in this room. I mean, it was, and she died a few hours later after that. It was amazing. It's not a Brig thing. It's a God thing. And that made it even more so that, no, this is super important that we do this. I think it's also, I had another employee come up to me and say, well, Brig, I noticed you have a Bible study on Tuesdays. I said, yeah, you're more welcome to come. She goes, well, I believe in Buddha. And I said, good. And she said, I was wondering if I could have a Buddha study. And I said, absolutely. This is how you do it. You start out with nothing. You put all your faith in Buddha. And as Buddha builds your business to the point that you're growing so much that you can afford to have a lunch for Buddha, then that's what you should do. And she went, I get it. I said, yeah, because Buddha did not build this. Jesus did.
Yeah.
And a little tongue in cheek. I'm sure there's some HR directors out there freaking out over that, but it flew. And then another thing is, I was part of what was called the Ironman group. There's there's like a Granger Construction and a Granger Waste Management in Lansing. And they're two of my really good friends. And then another guy that had a pharmaceutical business, all Christian. And so we would start having lunches together. We called ourselves the Iron Men because iron sharpens iron. Mm-hmm. And we still text all the time. And so it's good to surround yourself with other Christian CEOs, presidents. Yeah. Absolutely.
Like-minded people. And I want to talk a little bit about that because you were part of YPO, you're part of the Ironman group, and then you led the Legatus chapter in Lansing for quite a few years. Why is that community so important to you?
Well, it was interesting. YPO Detroit there's just some brash businessmen, you can imagine. They got a lot of scars, but they helped me a ton in the fact that, these guys were second, third, fourth generation. Mm-hmm. They went to business schools out east. They did their internships out west. Then they came back to the business. And, I'm a geography graduate from Northern Michigan University, no MBA. But I would tell them, I go, I'm more like your grandpa. Okay. I'm more, I'm first generation, more roll up the sleeves, and they appreciated that. Mm-hmm. But I remember, not a lot of faith in YPO. It was more business. And I told myself, man, if they had it'd be so cool if they had like a Catholic YPO. And then little did I know that, Tom Monahan had started this years ago, and Tom Monahan was actually in Detroit YPO, way before me, obviously. And so Fran and I got involved with when they reopened the Legatus in Lansing. We were in 2014. Yeah, we joined that, and we loved it. And again, like what we talked about earlier, having the spouses there was huge. And you're an average of your 5 best friends. Mm-hmm. If you take a look at your life, Stephen, do you have the same best friends that you had when you were in middle school and in high school? You might have a couple floaters there, but typically what we do is our friends are kind of like scaffolding on our lives, and we're their scaffolding. And as we change and go through changes, we start looking at friends that we want to emulate and people that we like. And so my friends are changing. I got a new friend now that at 63 years old, I met him at church, and just a great guy. And that's constantly changing. And I think as business people, we have to do that. And then also there comes a time that we have to kick some of our old friends to the curb. And I know that sounds cruel. I'm not talking about a friend that is down on their luck. No, you don't ever leave a friend like that. But when your faith starts to get stronger, there's going to be people that are going to question you. And there's going to be people that will actually turn from you. And are you enough of a man or a woman to say, that's fine? Or are you going to be a chameleon and try to be like every single one of your friends and of your old friends? And I found that as I get older, life is like toilet paper. The less you have on the roll, the faster it goes, you know? So I don't have time for friends like that anymore. Yeah. I'm looking for friends that are going to make me better, that can sit down and have meaningful conversations like you and I are having.
Yeah. I often describe Legatus as that moment in a lot of people's lives when they move from success to significance.
I like that.
And I know that terminology might mean a lot to you, having not only built the company, but now doing things of eternal importance that you are now doing since even selling. Can you talk a little bit about how 2 Men in a Truck prepared you for your greater mission now?
Well, again, God, if you allow him to, because we have free choice, is going to sand you, chisel you, and it hurts. And you can be a cow and run away from that and be lukewarm. And we know what Jesus does with lukewarm. He spits it out, right? So no, it's like sit back in that chair and get that. And that's what's been happening with business. You take a look at your successful Legatus men and women out there. They've allowed themselves to change, to evolve, to be chiseled. They've got successful businesses. Don't think for a second that God did not have a part in that. Yeah. Well, he's doing that for a reason. And it's not just because so you can get more and more wealthy. He's doing it so you can use it for the kingdom. And you can do some of that work while you're in that position. But man, as soon as you sell or for whatever reason that you leave, don't feel all hollowed out. Like I've got nothing else anymore. It's like, no, you still have all those tools that God gave you. Mm-hmm. Let's see if we can bring more people to the faith with it.
So what worked best for you when you sold 2 Men in a Truck in terms of going into the next phase of life? Because I think you're right. A lot of our members are at that point where they are selling their business or turning it on to the next generation. And what pitfalls might they avoid that you avoided yourself or would suggest they avoid that you didn't?
Oh, I've seen it, and I guarantee it. Your listeners have seen it too. They've seen that old CEO at a restaurant that's barking and demanding. And it's like, dude, you don't have that anymore. You're a lion without teeth. Okay.
That's why I love having kids. Cause whenever I go home, it doesn't matter what position I hold, I'm still just dad,
or a dog.
Yeah.
I had a friend tell me that when I come home late, my dog's happy to see me. When I come home really late, he's really happy to see me. No, don't wear that position that you have as a cloak. Understand, when we sold 2 Men in a Truck, God wanted us out. There's no question. I'm going like, Jesus, you realize how much money we're making? How much money I can give to the kingdom? He goes, yeah, that's sweet. It's time for you to go. And it was the business. It outgrew our family. 2 Men in a Truck went to the varsity level. I mean, we were in a place now that we're going against, $1 billion companies. And it was like for the survival of the brand and more importantly, the survival of our franchisees who were like family. No, they needed deeper pockets and we had to get out. And the thing to do is I had to take my 2 Men in a Truck coat and hang it up and walk out. And like I said, we severance the snot out of our employees. We loved them. We took care of them. There was no skeleton in our closet, but I knew that that was 5 years ago. I've never stepped foot in that office. I still talk with Randy Shaka and John Nobis, who were my right and left hand men, and multiple others there. I still talk to them. I still text them, and they're still on my devotionals and all that. I've just never stepped foot in the office. I had a friend that was at our condo in California, and he's looking around. He's going, Brig, there's not one 2 Men in a Truck thing on the wall here. And I went, no, you might find an old 2 Men in a Truck golf ball in my bag, but no, it's just not who I am. Yeah. I am a child of God. And the things that he taught me in 2 Men in a Truck, I appreciate those, love that company more than anything, but it's not who I am. It's not who I am. And so I think advice that I would have is have that conversation with yourself. It's still going to sting a little bit when you do it, when you leave. But then all of a sudden you get back on your feet and you start looking at other possibilities. You think you don't have anything to give, and then you go to a nonprofit with the knowledge that we have, with the Goddess members have. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to do there.
Yeah.
Even this old building, God has shown me a lot of different.
Yeah. Tell me about this, because obviously we're in a different set than we usually are.
Yeah. So this building was built in 1896. It was the Peninsula Grange building, basically a farm community building. And this was the hub of everything that was going on in the area. It was built within walking and horse riding distance. Farmers got together. Politicians came and spoke with them into a big group. They had seed salesmen here. They learned about agriculture here. People got married here. They had funerals here.
Mm-hmm. It was a central hub.
It was a central hub. And look at the parallels between this Grange and even me with Two Men in a Truck in the business aspect. It was in its golden age. I had my golden age. Well, once roads got better, there was phones, the internet, everything else. This place became dilapidated, and then it eventually became obsolete. And it was basically, they just walked away from it. And kind of felt like I did when we sold Two Men in a Truck. This old building sits on two lazy dirt roads, on the corner of two lazy dirt roads, and that's where I found it. When I looked at it from the outside, I went, this is a damn good building. It's got good bones. It looked like an old man. His paint was kind of curling off him like wrinkles. We bought him for practically nothing. And then as we started going in, this is how God works with us, is we're all excited when God just starts working with us, but then we ripped down the drop ceiling and went, oh my gosh, the ceiling's sagging. Then we ripped off the paneling and went, oh my gosh, the Latin plaster is all cracked. We looked at, and then we got down below. This is what God sees in us. And I'm looking at this, and I'm not the smartest guy, but I'm not stupid. God is showing me this. And then this building spoke to me, not verbally, but in my heart at its worst moment. And I would love to share a picture with your audience of what this thing looked like. And you know what? That's how we feel when God is pounding us and scraping us. He's like, burn me down. I am useless. My days are behind me. And I pictured Jesus just like me, and just like Brad Carey, my contractor, walking in here, whistling, writing stuff down. Oh man. Yeah. You got a lot of good stuff going on here, Grange. It's the same thing with us. God's going, Brig, we got a lot of good stuff to work on. We are going to change your foundation. It's rotted out. Okay. We are going to, we're going to straighten out your floors. Oh, your wainscoting. That's your quality, Brig. That's the part that I love in you. We're going to keep that. We're just going to shine that up a little bit. And then all of a sudden, and the old man here, that's why I call the building. We're cranking up his foundation, and we're finding old jacks underneath. They were laying down there broken like dead soldiers from decades of people trying to fix this thing. God came in here. It's just like God does with us. We jacked this old man up, and he was creaking and moaning and mad. And we'd come back in the morning. If he had two hands, he'd give us a finger. But we do that to God too, until we start seeing things. And all of a sudden we start changing things. Now we're having meetings in this Grange building, shoe club meetings. We're trying to find affordable housing for East Jordan, Michigan. We have those meetings here. These are meetings they had here 130 years ago.
Yeah, it's come full circle. And
it is. And so God put this building in my life, and we paralleled each other exactly. And now, with Fran passing, I'm living here. This is my house right now until my house gets built on the lake. And I've never been hugged tighter than this whole house. And it was something that God put in front of me to live in at this time of my life. And it's also just the greatest analogy of how he works with us. But what I want to tell your listeners is that you got to allow God to chisel.
Yeah.
You got to buffalo through and allow yourself to be changed by God. Our lives are God's lives, and how he wants to chisel us and how he wants to make us. It's none of our business. Let him do his work and watch what happens.
Yeah. Well, I recently heard someone say, quoted Mother Angelica actually, about how you can't see God's will until it's in the reflector mirror.
Oh, totally.
And as you're speaking, that's what keeps coming to mind is you have all these experiences, but it seems like you very quickly sit and kind of ponder God's will in a situation. And I think for a lot of us, it takes a long time to look in that reflector and be like, oh, this is why, God did this to me at this.
Yes.
I mean, how did you build that spirit within you, whether it was in business, whether it was with this building, whether it was with Fran's passing? Like, how did you so quickly say, like, God, I see you're working through me?
Stephen, it's a muscle that you have to take time out with God, either in the evening or in the morning, and just think about the blessings. I mean, your listeners, the majority of them are wildly successful. Take a moment and a step back and take a look and give God credit for putting some people in your life, certain situations in your life. Even go way back when you were a kid, when something weird happened. I can think of several that was a God thing that turned me away from that person, that kept me from going off to the evil side. You know what I mean? There's blessings there. Thank God for all those blessings, all those little blessings. If you want to work that muscle, you've never really worked that muscle, do it daily when you go to bed. Thank God for everything, getting you to work and back. Maybe one of your kids was visiting your house. Thank him for getting your child back to their place. Think of all the things to be grateful for. And then pretty soon you start picking them up and you start looking for them. And then you start going more towards the bigger things. Like, man, like what got me through that recession?
Yeah.
Or, I don't know. There's many challenges that we have. It could be professional. It could be marital, family. But always thank God and understand that even when things look horrible, I had last year building our house. It was stick built and it burned to the ground June 3rd. And I had my builder pounding on the door of the Grange here to wake me up at 3 a.m. in the morning. And I went there. My neighbors are crying. People are running around hysterical. And I just went, this was the will of God. There is no question in my mind. Is God angry that I'm building this house? Not at all. I know that. It's like, there's a reason that God allowed this to happen. And people afterwards went, you were in shock. I went, no, I wasn't. I said, this was the will of God. And then Fran dies, December 7th. It's a tough year. Kind of felt like cheap version of Job. But God has a plan. And like what he told me with Fran in my heart, oh, Fran's reassigned. You're going to be reassigned. And it's just like, I'm going to sit in this chair and be chiseled. And are there times I get up and run away from it? Yep. Until I get my together. And then I go back and sit down in the chair. And I know that God's working on something really good. And so it's be patient. Isaiah 40:31, they that wait upon the Lord shall mount up with eagles. Fran diaried all the time. And I found that in her notes. And then she actually bought me, it's behind me on the wall. I moved it here to the Grange and I want to mount up with eagles. And the only way that you're going to do that is to be patient, let God work with you, be the buffalo, ride the buffalo, and take things on, and things will get better. And God always does things for his will and his timing. And that's what's got me through all this. And so now they're past where they were. They're rebuilt. They're past where they were during the big burn. Like I said, I still cry daily over my wife, but a lot of times when I cry, it's out of appreciation of what God has done or what people have done for me. I've had a lot of support, when this happens, you become very tenderhearted. And I appreciate that. That's part of the things that God has been working on with me, is to be more tenderhearted on that.
How do you help your kids get through, process that? Because obviously you all married 40 years and you have that muscle memory built in to reflect on God's will, and maybe they do, maybe they don't, but how do you help them through that process?
They help me. And they went, Dad, we got jobs, we got kids. We can go in and out of grief. They're worried about you. Dad, you wake up alone. make coffee alone. You alone. And I went, I know. I said, but I've never been closer to the Holy Spirit in the absolute sorrow that I'm in. I do think Fran bringing our family into the Catholic faith, I will give that. They have watched Fran and I go to Mass since they were born. They've watched us struggle with that business. They watched me. They read my book. They lived it. They saw me change. And they are very devout. And I've got one that doesn't. He's not going to church, but he'll get there. But they're very devout. They all pray. And so, God walks the halls of 2 Men in a Truck. He walks the halls in their houses too. I feel it. And they want to bring their kids up the way that the Fran and I brought them up. And so they're very, very solid, but they watch us as parents more than maybe what we realize.
Well, Brig Sorber, you're a legend. I appreciate you hosting us here at the Grange and sharing your story.
Well, I appreciate it. I hope we covered everything, and thank you for you and your team and all the things that you do for Legatus. Greatly appreciate it.
You made a good path for us. So thank you.
Yep.